right, welcome back everybody to another live stream. And today we're going to talk about the often underappreciated but very important cycling accessory that is the sock.
That's true. Most of us don't ride without socks on.
That's true.
So, and they play a very important aesthetic purpose as well. Not only, matching your outfit, showing off, which brands you support, whether or not you rock the party pace.
Right. And interestingly, there's, some cyclists among us, I'm not going to name names, but they're very specific about certain rules regarding socks. Not us though, but
That's true.
It's a thing.
It is a thing. Sock height,
Yeah.
matchy, things like that. Things you don't obey by.
So I think in some ways, socks are pretty imbued into cycling culture. So today we're going to talk with our friends at Defeet. We're going to nerd out about socks. There you go, magic of the camcorder. But before we do, again, we want to thank our Patreon supporters. You guys make this content possible, keeps the lights on, helps us get interesting guests, and do projects such as this. So thank you, the folks that support the channel on Patreon. And by the way, you might have seen that we've got some fun new merch. We've been kind of promoting the idea of party pace, having fun while riding, non-competitive cycling. You've seen the patches, you've seen the stickers, and now, what do you got there, Laura?
It's the brand new.
It's a
Little beautiful enamel pin. Soon to
hit the big cartel store once we figure out how to ship it. Because unlike a sticker or a patch,
it's not flat.
It's not flat, and the post office freaks out. So once we get our ship station set up and all the packaging and all that stuff, you will see that on the store. But without further ado, let's jump in and meet our guests. We've got Shane here, who is the Chief Psychologist. I pronounced that right?
That's it's an O, not a U.
Okay. Very key distinction. And we've got Paul. And Paul, what's your title there? We didn't get to sort that out in the pre-show.
Well, right now I am our CSO. I've held, I think, most of the titles at Defeat over the years. I've been involved for 28 or 29 years now.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. So one thing that's unique about you guys is you guys are based in the US. Can you tell us a little bit about the brand history?
Well, the brand history started back in 1992 when my wife and I were traveling the Southeast racing bikes, and she was quite good and she could win enough money to supplement her income, and I was spending enough money to deplete my income. And so, long story short,
a good team.
Yeah, long story short, I started making a sock, and we would go to the bike races and carry the socks with us to the bike races and still out of the trunk of our Ford Taurus. And that's kind of how it started. But I did have a family history. My father sold knitting machines, and we emigrated to the U.S. Because of sock machines. And so I was brought up in a sock machine, and that's kind of cycling and socks were kind of everything that I knew. So,
right.
Boom.
And you guys are headquartered in Hickory, North Carolina. And you had mentioned that it was, there's a lot of sock production and also furniture production in that area.
Yeah, Hickory was the sock capital and furniture capital of the U.S. for many years, up until NAFTA came on, and there's a mad exodus to China for manufacturing, and that was 1992 when we started. So, we started whenever all the MBAs were saying, business manufacturing's leaving, and now we found out, the current day situation on how important it is to manufacture close. And everything we do is local. We buy all of our own yarn locally, and got quite a big footprint locally, so provides a lot of jobs.
Yeah, cool. So because of that, have you guys been able to withstand the storm that is COVID?
Paul, I'll let you do that one.
Well, fortunately, we haven't been hit. No one at Defeat has come down with it, but it's not over. I just saw North Carolina cases are up 50% suddenly. So we're still being as vigilant as we can.
Yeah. But in terms of, I guess, like manufacturing and getting the natural resources, are you more insulated because you do try to source things within the region?
Yeah, so supply chain has been huge globally for brands, particularly manufacturers all over the world. And as we've seen, bike shops inventories have been depleted so much during COVID because cycling got this boost in activity. Defeat has worked on our own resilience for a long time now, decades literally. So having that localized supply chain has helped us and is continuing to help us. We just hope that everyone who's part of it will keep it all together. Right.
So what's the landscape look like now in terms of sock manufacturing in Hickory? Are you guys the only major producer, or are there other smaller factories?
That's a great question, and it ebbs and flows. We are now one of the only ones left. They started to come back about 5 years ago locally, but we want them to come back because it helps our local yarn suppliers, as Paul was talking about. The more they have to service, the stronger that they are. And having we have a very strong list of yarn suppliers, and they're within an 80-mile radius, and that's beautiful. And we've got NC State that has an incredible textile technology program, and I hope to see more come back, especially now that we saw that making socks in China doesn't necessarily make it work. And at Defeat, we're proud to say that we focus on making long-lasting goodness, of fair value. And we really get excited when we see somebody raise a pant leg and they do the salute. I've had these 20 years.
I'll just add a little bit for your viewership that doesn't know. Defeat's entire product line it comes from U.S. sourced fibers. We use USA grown wools that come from the Rocky Mountain region, and those are washed and dyed in the U.S. And we use performance. All of our performance fibers come from North Carolina, and those use recycled plastic bottles. And all of that is Shane, I believe our recycled bottles all come from the East Coast. Is that right?
Yeah, we actually challenged this company we work with from North Carolina called Reprieve, which is owned by Unify. And we said, hey, let's recycle the bottles here in North Carolina. That's about 4 years ago. And they stepped up to the plate and opened up 90 new jobs to recycle the water bottles. And just think about that whenever 2 year, maybe last year sometime, 60 Minutes did a story on recycling that's not getting recycled anymore. Well, Unify are taking bottles from Virginia, Tennessee, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, and recycling them right here in North Carolina and creating yarn, which goes into the automotive industry, to carpets, and especially socks.
Cool. Sweet.
That's so cool to hear.
Yeah. Let me take a quick break here. If you guys are in the YouTube chat and you have any questions about socks, let us know in the comment section. And if you guys wear Defeat, you can't show your pant leg, obviously, but let us know in the comments. Do you want to ask the next question?
Yeah, so I think it's one of the things that's really interesting about the history is that it's so intertwined with cycling. Can you talk about, what makes a cycling sock a cycling sock? Like, what makes it specific to cycling?
Laura, go ahead, Paul.
Okay, well, I brought a couple props. So I have a typical cycling shoe here, and cycling shoes for a performance fit are very low volume. They don't have a lot of space in between your foot and the shoe. And of course, that's so that you get the max amount of power transfer when you push on the pedals. So the cycling sock, got one here on a foot form, needs to be thin to be able to fit inside that shoe, lightweight, low bulk, doesn't carry a lot of moisture, doesn't store moisture. It's got a lot of airflow to help keep your foot nice and cool on the warmer days. And there's some other features that Defeet added on when we really created the performance design cycling sock. We created the category almost 30 years ago, and we'll probably touch on a little bit of that later. But those are really the base features of a cycling specific sock.
Right. Well, I think also, Laura, you hit it earlier when you said fashion. Fashion is important, and when we started, bicycle racing was a big fashion, and so we were able to take the sponsors' logos and put them on the sock. And the funny thing is, the USCF, which was the organization that became US Pro, had a rule that said everybody must wear a white sock that's a quarter way up their leg. And so they've always had these rules. And we came out. we came out and started making the sponsors another place to put a logo. And that's kind of how I met Paul. I put my phone number on the foot bottom of a sock and my logo on the cuff, and I gave it to him like a business card. And he called me and said, Paul was racing in the Tour DuPont at the time. He was a professional bike racer for Subaru Montgomery. And Paul called me back and he said, these socks are great. So anyway.
So does that mean that you kind of single-handedly made wearing a pulled up high white sock unfashionable?
I think we did. Yeah.
I don't know. I can't claim credit for that, but Shane's absolutely right. I mean, when I got back to the hotel with that pair of socks in my pocket and I started looking at them, I can't emphasize how different the Defeet product was in 1992 compared to everything that had come before it. And it was just obvious from the moment you looked at them, let alone put them on your foot.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah. What was the sock landscape like? I mean, what were the other alternatives, and how are they different, or how was the Defeet different from those?
Yeah, at that time there was companies like ASOS, some that were doing like their own logo on a sock. There were very few players, none of whom had a real cycling specific sock. They were ribbed socks that were coming out of Europe, and one or two rides in poor weather would just completely deteriorate the cuff of the sock. They'd break down, the rubber would break down. They'd start getting baggy on your leg and falling down. So Shane had really identified kind of the pain points of the cycling sock, and what he created is a true invention.
Cool. Yeah.
And one other item I'll add to that. I mentioned the Tour DuPont, which was a big bicycle race that traveled like the Tour de France in the East Coast of America. And DuPont at the time had Lycra, they had Cordura, they had Coolmax, and they had Enron. And so they were heavily involved in sponsoring this. But this Coolmax material, which was a tri-lobal cross-sectioned fiber, was the first wicking material ever invented. And the way we saw it, you said to go into the weeds on socks, but the way we saw it is traditionally a sock is made with the cotton to the outside of the sock. And the reason they do that is people come up and feel with their hand, they feel the outside of the sock. So cotton is a ring spun fiber that is twisted together. And if you take a strand of cotton and untwist it, it comes right apart. So with cotton, you have to have a rebar, which is nylon. And so nylon would be on the inside of the sock, and they put the sock material to the outside. And when we saw this new Coolmax material, which was ring spun, like I said, a trilobal wicking, we figured let's put that on the inside next to the foot bottom and put the nylon to the outside, which created an incredibly durable sock. And that's how we were able to really make leaps and bounds in the sock world.
Right. How often does like a new material come around that you guys look at and go, oh, we should incorporate that? Or is it pretty matured now in terms of fiber science?
Well, we are challenging, and the cool thing about Defeat, we have such an incredible athlete connection because our product is so far superior for 30 years. We get all the yarn companies coming to us looking at our athletes as if they're astronauts and they want to test the product in that environment. And so we get, a lot of the times, we're ahead of the big 4-letter sock provider, Nike, for example. We're ahead of Nike in getting yarn and technology. So you asked a great question, and there's lots of things on the horizon at Defeat, but about 3 years ago, we challenged the world with a protein-based fiber, and we created the world's first ever globally. It was a yellow orb spider silk sock, and we made it entirely of golden orb spider silk from Madagascar, which was, I think, $68,000 a pound for the yarn.
Holy jeez.
We only had we bought $5,000 worth of yarn and made a sock and presented it to Team Quickstep right before the Tour de France. And the next day, they won the yellow jersey.
There you go. It's on the sock.
So we created the lucky sock. So we're always on the cusp of innovation because of that reason. So
that's cool.
Yeah. What that sock feel like? I'm trying to imagine what that is it like.
Russ, that's a great question because everybody thinks it's sticky and whatnot, but we've been researching spider silk for probably about 15 years. And the way spiders make their silk, they've got these little orbs little, what do they call, Paul? Little fingers at the bottom where their silk comes out. And they can make 5 different types of silk. Some of it is made for strength, and some of it is made for stickiness to catch the fly. Well, the golden orb spider produces a yellow golden silk, and this feels just like a silk would feel. And so this sock is very strong, very, very light. And what we like about it is, if you can imagine Lycra stretching, which is a man-made substance, or a spider silk stretching, and it's protein-based. And so protein-based would be biodegradable. And it wouldn't need oil to create, the Lycra side of it. But then it also has this structural strength that it's 15 times stronger than steel. I mean, it's incredible stuff. So I do have one in my office, and the other one is on the wall on a golden, on a crystal foot form at the Quickstep office. So.
Do you put it on special occasions just to?
I wish I had it to show you, and
right.
That's amazing. So does it look different?
One more little fact about that golden orb spider sock. So it was only the fifth completed item in human history, that has ever been completed clothing item out of that material.
Wow.
One of them is on display at the Smithsonian, and it is a high priest robe that was made out of, it was made about 10 years ago. And that's why I started following it because of that. But if you really do your research and find out that the scientists are trying to take and they're combining a goat with a genome of a spider. And when the goat produces milk, there's a certain amount of silk in every gallon of milk that the goat produces. And so they're genetically modifying sheep. We don't want to, or goats. We don't want to go there. So we're looking to do this synthetically. We're trying to do it synthetically. Well, we're not trying to do it. We're paying attention to companies that are making it themselves.
You don't want to end up with a goat-sized spider. Is basically.
That sounds terrifying.
Was that not a Simpsons episode? Spider goat.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. Well, so speaking of fibers, what are some of the most common? I tend to be a huge fan of natural fibers like wool. And you obviously talked about the Coolmax. What are your favorite materials? What's the difference between using a wool and a synthetic?
Yeah, okay, I'll take that. So I'm also a fan of natural fibers. Huge fan of wool. We really go off of 3. So we no longer use Cool Max. Our synthetic polyester is called Reprieve. That's the one that comes from recycled water bottles. And then we have the USA grown wools. We also have a fiber called Wool Comp, which twists both of those fibers together. And I think it's personally my favorite fiber that we use at Defeat, the Wool Comp. And because you really get the best of both worlds, you get all those qualities of wool that we love, which is just its ability to function well in such a wide range of climates. It seems to do better in wetter climates. I think it's because the insulative qualities of wool, part of the fibers, to my understanding, are hollow, so that it insulates with air better. And then when we twist it with the Reprieve, you get all of the great benefits of Reprieve fiber polyester, which is just that amazing wicking dry feel that you get from a performance polyester like that. And so by offering all 3 of these fibers in our socks, you get to really dial in what your preferences are based on, the climate and the conditions that you're going to face. So for you guys, out in Montana with the wolves, if you're caught in a thunderstorm, or if you're in the mountains, or if you're wading across creeks or something, my choice would always be either wool or Wool Comp. Mm-hmm. For a lot of people who live like in the Southwest or the East Coast, in the summertime, they've got that humid, hot climate, and hot foot in a cycling shoe is a very real thing. That's when that Reprieve fiber performance polyester can really help keep your foot dry and cool in those conditions. And owning the right sock for starting with that base fiber for where you live and what season that you're facing. Seasonality is huge in when you select your which socks you're going to add to your kit. And so Defeat has it really covers the gamut with these 3 fibers.
And cool. And what Paul just spoke about as far as the twisted yarns, he's absolutely right. And there's one other side to this, is called a filament yarn, which I talked about earlier, which is a one continuous strand. And we have one sock called the Evo, which is made of all filament. So it feels like a nylon. It's a very slick feel. And that sock is extremely good in the very high heat. So we go from the high heat in the Evo all the way down to the full wool in the Woolly Bully. And then we have that middle ground that Paul was talking about, which Russ, I think Rob Dickerson sent you a Cush 50/50, our new Wool Comp. Did he send one of those? I believe that.
I think so.
Good question. We have a very large pile of socks.
That's that gray one, the gray one there with the green stripe. Yep.
This one?
That is, yeah. That's got a full padded terry at the bottom, and you can feel the nice texture that it has. It's got a slick but nice feel to it. That is a 50/50 wool, and that's a beautiful sock.
Yeah.
Cool. I can't tell you how difficult it's been to not dive into the samples that you guys sent, because we've had them for a couple of weeks, and we're like, we can't bust into them until we do the live stream.
As soon as we're done here, we're gonna arm wrestle for them.
Right. So let's
go ahead.
I was gonna say, talk us through. Let's open up one of them, and I'd be curious about just like the nomenclature and vocabulary of like sock anatomy. You mentioned the phrase, the terry. Is that a?
Yes.
Yeah. So I just wanted to mention to the viewers what Shane meant by that, and I don't know. So this is a Wool Comp, Woolly Bully, and this is it has a rib cuff. You can see these lines here, and so this one is made of that USA grown wool with the Reprieve 50/50 twist. And as far as the terry that Shane's talking about, so when you turn the sock inside out, you can see these sort of, I don't know if you can pick it up on the camera, but there's
terry.
You know, it's a little thicker right here.
Okay, like a terry rib. Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So the terry is those loops. And so for people who want padding or extra insulation in their socks, that's when you want to choose a sock model that has that in it.
Right.
Gotcha. So when you say terry, it's the same concept as like a terry cloth robe. That kind of terry.
Right.
Gotcha.
Okay.
It's
Cool.
basically.
So I was gonna say, so if you compare that to, this is another sock that uses that USA grown wool with the mix and the comp, but when you take this sock and turn it inside out, it doesn't have those terry loops, and it's completely flat, and it's a thinner sock. So between these two socks, depending on how much insulation you needed and where you're riding and how much room you have in your shoe, that's huge in a cycling fit, that would determine which sock model you'd want to use.
Yeah, I'm curious about this sock. Like this, it's got one? Yeah. So does this part here serve a function, like this kind of ribbing, like in the
middle?
Yeah. Or is that just like design?
That's an arch support, and so that has Lycra ribbing just around the arch support to make it cinch in on your foot in that area. That particular sock is our brand new model, which is called the All Day, and that is mainly made for anything you want to do. And so what we did is we relaxed the cuff cinching. And we talked to Laura asked earlier about cyclist socks. Well, cyclists typically are on the thinner side, and so we make the cuffs aggressive, where this particular sock can be worn by anybody because we've relaxed the cuff a little bit. So that is our all-day sock that is made with the 50/50, and it does have that arch wrap support around the center. And then it has the flat toe seam that you can't even feel. That's So you've got the toe box and the heel box, of course, and then the forefoot is the mesh, the aerated mesh weave. That's the forefoot.
Okay.
So
Get this in the camera here. So that's this part here.
That's what Paul was talking about, the airflow, and that allows your foot to breathe, and it takes both yarns that are in the sock and it creates a mesh. Yeah.
It almost sounds like a running shoe, how they have like an engineered mesh to reinforce certain parts or to allow breathability for certain parts.
Yes, totally.
Cool.
All right, you can see how open that is. That was another, I think, a huge step forward that Shane made when he created the original Defeat aerator, was really this open mesh weave. And we kind of take it for granted now, but really for cycling, this is kind of a must-have.
Yeah, that's cool.
Cool.
Let's see, what else do we have here?
Can I go, Paul? Can you pull that sock back up? I want to point something out. This will be a great demonstration. Yeah, put your hand in that. So that mesh weave, it looks kind of yellow. And then if you look at the bottom of the sock, the bottom looks green. That green is the nylon rebar, and the yellow is, flip it over, Paul. The yellow is the reprieve coming to the surface. Now, if he flips it inside out, you'll see the exact opposite effect. So your foot sole is sitting on the yellow, and so as your foot sweats, it goes straight into that wicking part, and then it absorbs into that mesh, and then more air hits and it evaporates. That is we are naked now. That is our secret sauce.
Right.
And we've been saying this for 29 years. We've told people that that's the secret sauce. And the cool thing is, because everybody else wants to do it the other way, if you don't own your own machinery, you can't do it the way we do it. You have to flip it all inside out.
Right. So is that woven by just just one machine, or is it constructed in parts then put together? Like
that's one machine.
Okay.
So yarn is put on racks, and the machine is a cylinder, and it starts to spin, and needles come up, and they grab the yarn, and then out the birth chamber comes a beautiful sock.
Nice.
Nice.
So we got a question here. Someone that needs some sock help. Someone's been absolutely miserable on a couple trips. Needs help choosing the sock. Unavoidable creek feet at 40 degrees Fahrenheit and wind. Of your line, what would address creek feet? I'm assuming that means really sweaty feet.
Or maybe he's walking through a lot of creeks.
Yeah.
Right. That's when I've had the worst creek foot, I guess, is when I had to wade through some creeks. But I mean, really, in those temperatures, I would go for either a woolliator or a woolly bully in either pure wool or wool comp. And if it's that cold and you're wearing a thin sock and a very tight cycling shoe, you really have to consider using a shoe cover or something like that to add, neoprene or extra insulation, because you're almost in snow at that point.
Right.
But there's one important factor, Russ, and that would be to make sure that there's blood flow to the toes. If you've got too much sock, it shuts off the capillary warming of the blood coming from the heart to the feet. So making sure that the sock is not too heavy. My preference, anytime water's involved, I would go with the wool comp woolly bully choice for 40 degrees.
Right. Right. Cool. Nice. Well, what else do we have on the table here?
So is that this one? This is a woolly bully.
That is a woolly bully. That's all wool, but I don't know if you have that one is the thermiator that you've got in your hand.
Is it this one?
No, but that one would work. That would work. Because that is the comp. So I'm not sure if you have that one listed.
Trying to read the back of the labels at the same time.
So I think your tagline is ride, run, play. Of the different disciplines that you serve with socks, is cycling the most popular, or where does that fall in terms of your customer base?
Yeah, cycling has always been our core market. The two-wheeled lifestyle is really what it's all about for us. It's not any particular discipline of cycling. This sport is such a lifestyle. I mean, we really cater to everyone from the Tour de France athlete, world champion, to the person who's just discovering cycling for the first time. And over the years, we've done a wide range of socks for all kinds of quiet sport athletes. We made Bodie Miller's socks when he won the Alpine Ski World Cup overall. We've done socks for rodeo world champions. We've done so many different sports, but really cycling is the dominant market for us. And play covers everything. But what's interesting about cycling, especially, is how cycling brings people together from all kinds of sports. So you're just seeing almost every athlete, the thing that they have in common ends up being the bicycle. It's great.
Yeah. And by transitive properties, the sock.
Yeah. Nice. So I'm curious if are there things that like different things that you would consider, or that a cyclist would consider, from that pro level to those of us who have no aspirations of racing and just like to go goof around and ride through creeks.
Yeah. Do you mean if there's products like for that type of rider?
Yeah. Like, do you need to be, if you're a pro cyclist, is there more that you think about? Can you, I don't know. Do we need to think about socks less because we're not going as fast, or do we need to think about it more because we're not generating as much heat, I guess?
I think that for for that type of wear, it's super important because, you know, you want to, everyone wants to make, you know, when you're spending your own money compared to the pro rider, you have to make every dollar count. So why not buy a pair of socks that could last a decade or two and share in those memories of those great adventures with you, right? So, you know, for that sort of lifestyler, you really can't go wrong with a sock like our Woolly Bully or the new All Day that we're about to come out with. They're just incredible multi-sport cycling lifestyle socks that once you have a pair, you're just not going to settle for anything less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I would like to add to Laura's question there. We've had the professionals, the team Quickstep have been working with us for 25, 26 years. And last year, they decided that they had to make a change. And we said, you know what, we've had a good time. Let's just move on. And we were ready to leave pro cycling behind for many reasons. And we got a call last minute from Team Lada Sudal. And because we made, I know this is on your list of the top 5 things that Aero, we have an Aero sock that saved 8 watts over the bare naked leg. And they called us and had to have our brand because of that, because it does count when they're racing the clock. And if there's 8 watts, they can have a sock that will help them save, you know, that I don't know what that equates to in a 10-mile time trial or whatever, but point being is it's very important. And the professional astronaut, as I said, cyclists have really helped us fine tune our product at the most elite level. So Mark Cavendish, when he was wearing our product, he knew if we changed a tiny, tiny little part of the sock, he knew right away, because when he's sprinting, the only thing that's connecting him to his pedals and the power, the sock, that's the last thing that reaches his body. So it's very important on the development side, but we are focused on the lifestyle of cycling in general. So it's kind of a,
Yeah. Is our buddy Josh from Silka that had done that top 5 Aero gains, and he one of them was a sock, and it was pretty fascinating.
It's cheap.
All right.
Yeah. It's like,
sock doping. I saw that hashtag pop up. Sweet. So we're about almost 40 minutes in. If you guys have questions, what is your nerdiest sock question? Ask it now. I think we're going to segue a little bit with the help of our viewers here. Someone saying Party Pace logo socks, Team Supple socks. And that's one of the reasons we're doing this live stream. We're actually going to partner with Defeet and do some Party Pace branded socks. And you guys have a whole custom program. How does that work?
Yeah, so if the viewers want to learn more, the website is defeatcustom.com. It's a separate little gateway there than defeat.com. And it gives the story about our custom shop and what makes us different, and also gives you a chance to submit an inquiry if you want to do your own custom sock. We will do minimums. Well, we're about to really explode things. I'll let Shane go into that if he wants to. That's a separate subject. I'm going to talk about our knit socks right now. And, you know, we will do low minimums. We can go as low as 3 dozen, but that's going to be at more of our full retail price. We have different pricing as you grow in your minimum quantities. And, you know, getting up to that 6 dozen level starts better pricing, and we can just go up from there. And Shane, you want to add to that?
Well, our custom business is what started Defeat. My wife and I made custom socks for the cycling team that we were on. And again, that first order was $350 that helped me pay for my entry fees for racing. And and we still have some of those original socks on the wall at the Defeat office, but the custom side of the business has been phenomenal. It's been a wonderful part of making it happen. And we were the first to do that. And it doesn't matter if you're the first, but we feel that we're the best as well. And we have some technology that is going to be coming to the surface. And I think it is premature to say too much about it, but it will revolutionize the custom sock industry yet again, 30 years in, so, or 28 years or whatever we are at. So.
Right. So I will always love the knit sock personally. I mean, it's like all wool jerseys to me. I'd rather hold on to a wool jersey than go with a more modern jersey in most cases. But a knit custom logo looks like this. And so you can see kind of the pixelation that happens when you knit. So generally when our customers want to engage with us, we pair you up with one of our custom shop staff right away, a human being that will help you carry your order out from start to finish. And our artists will take whatever artwork that you have and translate that into this small but very special knit space that we all have on our calves. A lot goes into that.
Is it like a program like Sockcad or something like that?
Sockcad. I will have to say that I was very fortunate because when I got out of school for electronics, I went to England to study for this knitting company that my father sold parts for. So if you could imagine Campanolo, the company was called Bentley Knitting Machines, and so they were going through the transition of mechanical sock machines that were run on belts into the electronic era. And so I was taking the retrofit these old machines into the new technology. So I saw the whole transition from that to the digital age. And now, yes, we have these programs where we used to have to draw the pattern on a pattern drum, and each pin would push something mechanically up and down. And now we have a computer screen with pixels. And pixel is a really good word to use when you're talking about knitting. And so, again, we understand sock machines inside and out. And our team, we talked about, COVID and surviving COVID. Our team is so incredible at the office, and we're small. We're about 30, 40 people. And we feel that we have the best, technicians and inspectors in the world, for that matter. And that's what you get when you do custom socks with Defeet.
Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome. So we talked about the knit and what that looks like. Would this be a knit one too, or?
Yes, that's knit.
So what are in terms of like graphics, what are the parameters that a designer has to work in?
That's where it gets tricky, because a designer is used to, sublimation, and when you get into the sock knit world, it gets very complicated. And so or simple. It takes the complicated and turns it complicated. But what we like to do is we like to take the artist and help them, because if you can imagine doing a circle like your logo that, with travel do good, that's very difficult to do a circle, because it's a step up, step up, step up, and it turns into a jagged. And it's also on the shelf, it may look like this, and then on the leg, when you stretch it, it goes like this. So we like to help the designer, give us and we can direct you into the sock lingo world.
Yeah, it's so subjective. I mean, sometimes you say, okay, I want a rooster, and then it's actually doable. I mean, on this particular sock, it was only doable one time, so it's on the back of the sock.
Mm-hmm. Don't get cocky, Paul.
What's that?
I said, don't get cocky.
In other socks you have, back here, this looks like a nice fade, but when you look at it up close, you can see how those are just full on pixels there. Mm-hmm. And so that's
cool. I like that. I like that pixelated look, though. It reminds me of Nintendo, like 8-bit video games, So if you've got a design that's working that kind of retro.
I mean, sometimes if a customer's struggling with it, one of our sales staff will ask them if they knew Atari, back in.
Nice.
Cool.
So one thing I do want to add while we're talking about the knit, we also came out with our direct to garment. That's a beautiful one, Paul. But we just came.
Straight lines, the pixelation doesn't matter as much. Just another design element there that sometimes you don't think about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to interrupt, Shane.
No problem. About a couple of months ago, we came out with a new sock called the All Day, which I mentioned, but we are doing direct to sock printing now. And so that's part of our secret is this particular sock that we did, we launched it as the Tambora collection. And the reason we did that is Tambora was the volcano that erupted in 1815, which started the bicycle revolution, actually, because most of the horses were, ill from the volcanic ash got in the atmosphere. And globally, we had a horse problem with them dying and not being able to feed. So a German guy named Karl von Drais came out with a bicycle, which was called the hobby horse. So that mountain, the volcano that erupted was called Tambora. And so we grabbed onto that and we created 3 different socks with the direct to garment printing. One is a wave, one is lava, and one is the storm that came after all the volcanic eruption. And you're going to be seeing a lot of that new technology coming to Defeat in many different ways. And that's direct to sock printing, but it is sublimation.
Is it as color fast as like just the traditional knit, or?
Yes, it's sublimation. So if you're familiar with the cycling jersey, basically we print directly on the sock and then it goes in a pizza oven and comes out and is indelible, if we can use that word.
Yeah.
So it literally gets baked in.
Delectable.
Yeah.
Nice.
Let's see. Yeah. So Sean Gould says, so thinking of them as kind of a stretchy pixel pattern. Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Stretchy pixel. You guys on YouTube chat, if you have any other questions, we're going to wrap it up in about 10 minutes, but ask your nerdy sock question. Do you have anything to ask?
I don't know.
What's your favorite on the table there?
I mean, my favorite, I think, is the same that a lot of people have commented on are the woolly bullies. I have a pair that I just love, and they came out last week because it's that time of year here in Montana. But I did see that there was a comment about what are the best socks to go with your Crocs, and I like all of them. But the woolly bullies kind of take up the slop on a Croc, and there's still enough room to move your toes.
Do you guys have what's your best selling sock out of, I don't know if you can see what we have on the table here, but is there one that just outpaces the others?
I would say the woolly bully.
Yeah,
the woolly bully 6-inch. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what these are.
Yeah.
That particular wool and charcoal has been just a home run for us. I mean, the quality, the feeling, the durability, the consistency that we get from that particular fiber and especially that color has been just fabulous.
Yeah. So someone here has a question. Why does wool not smell like synthetic socks? Can you speak to some of the odor resisting properties of wool, maybe?
Yeah, that's something that we just didn't even touch on at all here, and that's the antimicrobial, antibacterial properties that wool naturally has. And how exactly that works, I'm not totally positive. But,
magic.
Nature.
Nature.
Yeah. Let's see. So you guys make socks, but you also have other products that I know that even before we met Rob ages ago in Portland, I was already using Defeet leg warmers and arm warmers for those kind of transitional.
I was just about to bring that up, and I'm glad that you brought that up. So Defeet really specializes. Socks are an against the skin item. So when we continued to innovate and build out our product line, we stuck mostly with that against the skin area that we really know, which is a high performance area that all cyclists have to pay attention to. And so the natural build out for us was, circular knitting. That's our forte at Defeat. And so we created the arm skin. That was a patented product that we innovated. The kneeker is a knee covering that uses the same sort of circular knit technology. We also do Dura gloves. We do base layers called our undie shirts. Very, very thin, an incredible base layer for cycling, and it's just been esteemed in the pro cycling world. It's been worn to win everything. And we also do slipstreams, shoe covers. We do hats that we make ourselves, like the toboggan and the Scully, 2 different thickness hats. So am I missing anything there, Shane? Can you think of anything else?
Our new ascot, which this is a sublimated piece that we do. It's of course, a neck covering that you can pull up in today's world and ride your bike and stay out of the cold. But you also can go buy things in stores with your mask on.
Nice.
Some of our customers really like the combination of a custom sock mixed with or paired with a custom ascot.
Some new things that we're coming out with that we haven't talked about. One of them, Paul is wearing our Barnstormer shirt, and our Barnstormer is adventure cycling club that we have, and it's basically open to anybody that likes to take the road less traveled and enjoy their day and share pictures of the barns, and that's why we call it the Barnstormers. We're working on our brand new Barnstormer boutique, which will be Hangar 92, which will be at the Defeat office, open to club members only, and have coffee, local roasted coffee, and some beers and some fun times. So
is there going to be a sock height requirement before you can enter the club?
If you're wearing a no-show, there's no entry. Okay, if you have a no-show sock, you don't get in. You have to at least have an inch.
At least an inch. Minimum sock requirement.
If anyone's interested in the Barnstormers Adventure Cycling Club, that website is barnstormers.cc, and on that site you'll see some of the stuff. There's some films there that Shane stars in, that the whole Defeat crew is part of, something that our company took on, our little side interest of filmmaking. So might want to check that out and join the Barnstormers.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. I feel like I've learned a lot about socks. Definitely more complicated than I had thought.
Ditto. I guess I never really knew that so much went into choosing the fabric, and like the idea that you would wear different kinds of socks in different kinds of weather. I don't know. I'm not something I've considered. So
usually I just have my thick socks and my thin socks, but like to see all the granularity, to learn about how, within one sock or just a portion of the sock, that the pattern can change, the thickness can change, the material properties. It's pretty fascinating. And also the spider goats.
Oh man. No more spider goats.
Right. Well, before we wrap it up, do you guys have any last words?
I just want to say thanks to you guys, Russ and Laura, for having us. Been a long time fan of the channel, and the type of cycling that you do, and the places that you do it is just awesome. You do such a great job, and I tune in, every chance that I get, and just keep up the great work. I mean, your content is just superb.
Cool. Thank you.
And I would like to thank your listeners, and to let the listeners know that the team at Defeat are soul cyclists. We're in it up to here. My home is decorated. I've got a 1955 Bianchi in my foyer. I've built my own bicycle out of tubing, welded it together. So at Defeat, we're all about cycling, a mountain bike, gravel, road, BMX, commuting. I commuted for a year to the office, and you learn the ins and outs of all that. But when it comes down to it, it's the art, it's the science, it's the aesthetics. There's so many things to cycling, and the sport for that matter, and the community. And to us, it's about the community. So thank you and your listeners for having us. And if you ever have the wet, soggy feet crossing the creek, give us a try.
There you go. Nice. I do like this. This could be a hashtag, soul cyclist.
Yeah, I like it.
Nice. Cool. Well, with that, I think I'm going to take it home. Thank you so much, Shane and Paul, for joining us today. Learned a ton about socks.
Yes.
You guys on the YouTube chat, like we mentioned, one of the reasons we're doing this live stream is we're going to be partnering with Defeet to come out with some party pace socks, which may or may not be pink or teal. So or both. We'll see.
We look forward to making them.
Yeah. And grab the pin real quick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and if you guys missed it, these will be appearing on the web store soon. You know, we've been really trying to promote this idea of party pace, non-competitive cycling. I thought this was a fun phrase. So look for an enamel pin, which I think is fun. Kind of harkens back to, I don't know, to the time when people wore pins. I guess
we're gonna bring back the pin.
Right, the Secret Society party pace pin.
Nice.
Yeah.
We need to use that term more often when we ride together, Shane. Party pace.
Yeah. Party pace. I'm all about party pace, man.
It's a much more positive way than saying, "Hey, we're going to ride slow today." You know, because it's so much in the negative. But party pace, I feel like is an affirmative term.
Yeah.
So it's good. Take the cycling world by storm.
Yes.
All right. So I think with all that said, thanks again for joining us. Thank you, Defeat. Look for some updates on this sock project. Maybe we'll do voting. You can name it Socky McSockface or something. Hopefully not. But with all that said, good night, everybody, and keep the supple side down.